amendment to the EU withdrawal bill, demanding the UK stays in some form of customs union with Europe. It's something the opposition Labour Party is pushing for. Keir Starmer is the British shadow Brexit secretary.
It's a very significant step. It's a very significant victory, not only because of what it says, but the size of the majority in the House of Lords, which I think tells you a lot about the importance of this issue.
Cocaine thought to be worth almost €100,000 has been seized at Dublin Airport. 103 pallets of the drug were found inside a man who had arrived on a flight from Addis Ababa last Sunday. The 47-year-old has been charged with importing cocaine at Dublin District Court.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Des Kelly Interiors. Now with more choice than ever in wood flooring. Still at the lowest prices at the new look Des Kelly Interiors.
Becoming cloudy tonight with some light rain or drizzle in places. Mild with lowest temperatures 9 to 11 degrees. Another warm day tomorrow with good spells of sunshine. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
I am Toto Skilashi and you are releasing in 2 the ball and of News Talk.
Thank you, Toto. Football show coming up shortly. We'll chat with Miguel Delaney about Manchester United and Jose Mourinho. United currently playing tonight against Bournemouth. What's the latest, Richie?
Still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 1. That Chris Smalling goal separating the sides, but Bournemouth doing all the pressing in the past few moments. Should have had a penalty most recently. Callum Wilson has just had a chance denied by Phil Jones, which resulted in a
bad touch, wasn't it, Rich?
Corner. It was a
bad
terrible touch, but ultimately it was great defending by Jones to block his path to retrieving the ball as well.
What was the penalty issue? You said it was nailed on, Kev?
Yeah, I think it was Ryan Fraser's put a ball in from the left-hand side. It was whipped across the 6-yard box in any case. Callum Wilson's the wrong side of Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw clearly had his hands round his waist. He dragged him over. It was a penalty. It should have been a penalty. In fairness to the referee, it's the wrong side of him. It was a difficult one for him, but perhaps maybe the assistant near side could have seen it because Callum Wilson has got a tap in. It was a poor decision, actually.
We're all about fairness to the referees tonight.
Yeah. After
talking to Joy Neville. Do we go the other way? Do we get too soft on referees?
No, it depends which referee it is. That's what I would say.
Who's tonight's referee?
Scott. What's his first name? Not Ridley. Scott. He's called something Scott anyway. Mr. Scott. Call him that.
What else happened, Richard?
Graham Scott is his name. Elsewhere, a football line closer to home, Shamrock Rovers have re-signed Alan Manus. The goalkeeper will rejoin.
Goalkeeper, you say?
Yeah, the goalkeeper will rejoin the hoops when St Johnstone's season comes to an end in Scotland in a month's time. The Northern Ireland international helped Rovers to win 2 league titles in his first spell with the club before departing for Scotland. Rovers manager Stephen Bradley has been rotating his goalkeepers this season, Mark Horgan and Tomasz Jasinski, which some feel has contributed to their run of 3 defeats in a row. He won't be available, as I say, for another month with the side.
Is that a strange time to announce it, Kev? Because they're getting a lot of criticism about their goalkeepers. They've decided, you know what, yes, we do need a new goalkeeper, but he's only going to come in 4 or 5 weeks' time, and we have to stick with the current guys until then. But just so you know, lads, somebody else is going to come in and take your place.
Yeah, it depends what assurances he gives to the goalkeepers in there as well now, doesn't he? That's the thing. He's got to get them on side quickly because that could be a little bit of a poisonous atmosphere within that dressing room, yeah.
Yeah, 3 defeats on the spin. It's not going to be pleasant. Anyway, elsewhere, Tipperary are still alive.
The light in his voice.
There wasn't.
The delight in his voice.
Journalistic parlour. Tipperary still alive in the Munster Minor Football Championship this evening, but they needed extra time to beat Limerick 2-12 to 1-11 to set up a second playoff next week with Waterford. The winners of that game will have a home semi-final with Clare, while the lineup for the other semi-final already fixed with Kerry to take on Cork. Saul Canelo Alvarez, as we heard earlier, banned from the sport of boxing, that is, for 6 months as the result of a positive drugs test. The former world lightweight champion tested positive for the banned substance clenbuterol. The Nevada State Athletic Commission banned Alvarez for a year but suspended 6 months of that term as the Mexican fighter cooperated with its investigations. There have been fantastic scenes in Rotterdam tonight. The Premier League darts has pitched up there for the latest round. Raymond van Barneveld has received just a rapturous welcome. The scenes there have been utterly amazing.
Good man for getting to mention the darts. And I'm going to support Richie in that last statement as well. Richie is like you, Nathan. He is totally impartial. He doesn't support any football club.
No football club at all.
So there you go. Just like you. Just like Nathan.
Park it at the door.
Yeah,
exactly. Barney beating Simon Whitlock 7-3 to keep alive his playoff hopes. Earlier, Darrell Gurney going down 7-4 to the world champion Rob Cross, and a victory as well for Gary Anderson over Michael Smith. Peter Wright and the other home favourite Michael Van Gerwen are just taking to the Yockey. Van Gerwen takes on Van Barneveld in Rotterdam tomorrow. That one will be amazing.
That is classic.
It's over 2 nights.
Yeah, 2 nights. They basically rounds of 1 week for the Premier League darts, but because they've got this double leg in Rotterdam. They're going to punch out 2 sets of nights, which means party. They're all decked in orange tonight.
That's good darts, isn't it?
They're all
on brand,
packed into the Velodrome as well there in Rotterdam.
How many people are at that? About 10,000-12,000.
It looks at least 10,000-12,000 at that one. Yeah, it's amazing.
You'll know this, Richard. Why is darts so big in Holland?
I actually don't know.
Yeah.
It just took off there. They had a cohort of darts players like Van Barneveld and Co Stompy in the mid-90s that took hold there and I suppose helped breed the sport.
Van der Voort did well, didn't he, as well, off the back of those lads, didn't he?
All right, that it, Richie?
Yeah.
Time for the football show.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the Boyle Sports app. Cash out and in-play betting available in the App Store and Google Play Store.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Welcome along to Wednesday's football show. Nathan and Kev in studio this evening. We'll talk to Miguel Delaney shortly about Manchester United, who are leading Bournemouth by 1-0. Tonight's match doesn't really matter either way. We want to talk more about what's going to happen in the short and medium term at Manchester United. Miguel always has the inside line at Old Trafford and has a story this week that a somewhat temperamental Jose Mourinho, right now there's only 7 or 8 players that he trusts, which is quite difficult and maybe not music to the ears of the club's owners when Mourinho likes a squad, not the biggest squad, but maybe a squad of 20 that he can work with, that there's 12 players that they're paying a substantial wage to every week that Jose is not fully convinced by.
That's the one. It's the wages. That is exactly the point. It's how do you get the lads off the wage bill, get them into the clubs that's going to be able to match those wages, yes, and get them into a club that's going to be appealing to them. There's so many lads now that will just think, nah, thanks very much, I will sit on this wage for another couple of years and you'll do well to get me off the books. That is the problem with it. It's all well and good saying that, yes, I need 10 more bodies to come in, but the club, even though it's Man United and they are one of the richest in the world, they will have a budget. They will have to stay within certain parameters.
So what you mean there is somebody like Luke Shaw, they decide, right, we finally want to get rid of him. You could still get, I'm sure, 25 million maybe for Luke Shaw on this market. But the problem is that who's going to sign him? His reputation is such that he's not going to get a move to the top 6 more than likely. So therefore you're looking at the likes of Leicester or maybe a club like Bournemouth or maybe goes back to Southampton. But they're not willing to pay the wages, Everton. So you're probably having to pay 40 grand of his wages every week.
Yeah, well, aside that, you just pay him up, or not so much pay him up, but you're going to have to come to some sort of agreement with him and to say, well, say he's on 100 grand a week, for instance, and they'll say, we'll give you 60 at wherever it will be. He probably will get more than that, actually, but whatever it will be, say that there's a 40% drop.
Luke Shaw still get more than 60 grand a week?
No, what I'm saying to you is that they then have to, the club that he goes to, say, give him 60, United then have to make up the rest, so they'll give him, say, 4 million or 6 million to leave the club. That's essentially what would happen, so you're making up those wages anyway.
We're going to talk about the relegation fight as well. About a month ago there was 10 teams right in it. Now, well, it probably depends what Southampton and Stoke do between now and the end of the season. They're both 5 points behind Swansea. If they get a couple of wins, Swansea, Palace, Huddersfield, West Ham are still in danger, but that's coming up at about 9:30 as well. You can get your text in 53106. We're live on all our social media channels as well, so you can leave a comment on Facebook if you want. Joey Barton is to become the new manager of League One side Fleetwood Town.
Yeah, I'd heard that a while ago.
One day after his ban for betting ends.
Yeah, I was talking to Joey on Saturday actually at Anfield.
Oh, football friend.
No, he's working for TalkSport, and I'm just chatting away. Just what's the story? What were you up to? No, I want to get into coaching. Really want to give it a crack. But I'd heard it. I didn't actually mention it to him, but I'd heard it probably about a month ago now that the Fleetwood job was his. Yeah.
I know it would be ironic considering he was banned for betting, but you wouldn't have told us.
You can't get a bet on that. You wouldn't be able. You only get a bet on Premier League ones, don't you?
You'd be surprised. What do you think of the possibility of Joey Barton then as a manager? Because he's
that's inside trading, Nathan. You know that.
I'm the Phil Mickelson of Off the Ball. The more I get to know, the better. Barton as a potential manager. So he currently working in the media and has really thrown himself into that. As you say, you see him all the time at grounds working for TalkSport. He's doing his own podcast, which I know you're a big fan of, and he gets very interesting guests, and he's an interesting character. Listen, I don't think that what he has done in the past should by any means be forgotten, but that intensity that it seems to have as a manager, like, is this another Roy Keane type situation that he'd go in, he could make an instant impact, but the frustration he might have with players of a lesser ability?
Yeah, Yeah, you've heard the stories probably about him when he was at Rangers, when he clearly wasn't happy and he'd fallen out with Mark Warburton. And then you contrast that to going into Burnley with Sean Dyche, and he really admired Sean Dyche for the way that he went about things day to day, on the training ground, off the training ground, how he was getting them prepared for games. So,
how does Sean Dyche go about things day to day? What's different between Sean Dyche and other managers in the Premier League? That, firstly, it's been successful, that he's been tipped as Manager of the Year.
All managers don't treat players like adults. That is the truth. Some of the managers that I would have worked with over the years, they don't treat you like adults. They don't give you certain responsibilities. They don't actually trust you just to, like, you know, lads that have got families and things like this as well, constantly wanting to know what they're up to and things like this. And I understand it more so with young lads that maybe have got potential to have nights out and things like this. But lads don't go about things like they did 20 years ago as it is. So that's maybe not even there. But some managers have got ways about them, how they can interact with people. And Sean Dyche, I've met him plenty of times along the way, and I can tell that the way he's spoken to me, he will speak to his players in the same manner. It's natural to him. He's not false in any way. He doesn't necessarily have to put on any sort of act when he's speaking to them. He's basically himself, and I think that's what's appealing to someone like Barton. It's appealing to a lot of the players within that squad at Burnley as well. I think that's why he gets the best out of that squad.
Manchester United have just gone 2-0 up against Bournemouth. Romelu Lukaku has come off the bench and scored the second goal. On the counter-attack, Paul Pogba, an excellent driving run, says Henry Winter, and on to Romelu Lukaku, who off the bench puts Manchester United 2-0 up. We'll chat with Miguel Delaney in a moment.
I think it's worth to say in relation to Dyche as well, it's definitely worth listening to Barton's podcast with Dyche, how the two of them interact and the dynamics between the two of them, and what Dyche is saying. You get a real good insight into Sean Dyche, how he works.
Does Dyche have full control over Burnley's transfers?
I believe so, yes. I think
presumably if he's treating players different than your average coach, your recruitment is crucial. And maybe that's why he doesn't buy a lot of young players that actually 19, 20-year-olds now in the Premier League, or even 21, 22-year-olds are coming in on 50, 60 grand a week.
Yeah.
You do need to baby them a little bit.
Yeah.
You do need to not treat them like adults, because they've got all this money, they don't have the maturity to go along with it. So therefore you do need to keep a very close eye. So he goes, actually, I don't need that hassle, that's not me, so I avoid those kind of players and I buy somebody slightly more experienced.
You have got that. Do you know what? I don't know fully. I would say from speaking to him and listening to him, yes, I'd say he has a majority saying what transfers he wants coming in. I'm sure that there's players getting recommended to him from agents, maybe people within the club, and of course then his scouting system. That'll be integral part of his team. But your point is spot on there. I think Burnley would, when they got promoted 3 or 4 seasons ago from the Championship before getting relegated, they were probably paying maximum wages of 10 grand a week. Now all of a sudden, as you said, the lads are in brackets of 40, 50 grand a week there at Burnley, with added bonuses for staying up in the Premier League. And that in turn then pushes wages up even further going forward. So the next batch of signings that will be coming in, like Chris Wood last year, he'll be going in as probably one of the top earners, if not the top earner, and that pushes wages up going forward as well. Yeah, and he knows how to deal with that. I think he's excellent. I think he doesn't seem to me like he's chased anything, Sean Dyche. I don't think he needs to. He's not the sort of person that's impressionable. He doesn't need to be sort of. Some managers that I've met, some managers that I listen to, it's almost as if, yeah, I've not had a career, so I need to actually try and impress these people with my knowledge of the game. That's not how it works. You don't need to, regardless if you've had a career or not.
Sell yourself, Kev.
No, I don't agree with it. I personally, and I've sat on the coaching courses, I've done all these sort of things as well. Selling yourself, I don't buy it. I see through it.
Is that the problem for Dyche now, where he finds a club that is bigger than Burnley, where he has that same sort of control?
And his team around him. I think whoever takes, if Sean Dyche were to leave Burnley and he were to go to somebody else, that supposedly one of the reasons with Everton why they weren't interested, there's a massive, or his team, he's got a massive team around him. You're talking 7, 8, 9, 10 people potentially that he would take with him from Burnley. That's a big ask for a club like Everton that have put the people in place in certain jobs throughout that club to try to get the club forward, and it's a lot of changes for them.
All right, let's talk Manchester United. They're currently leading Bournemouth by 2-0. Chris Smalling in the first half, and Romelu Lukaku has come off the bench to score his 27th goal of the season. United resting a lot of players this evening. A little bit earlier on, we spoke to Miguel Delaney, who's been writing a lot about United and what's happening inside the dressing room and inside the boardroom as well, in terms of the relationship between Mourinho and Ed Woodward. and what they're going to do this summer in the transfer windows. They try and close the gap on Manchester City. Miguel highlighted several names who could be leaving Old Trafford at the end of the season. First up, I asked them, are we really in a scenario where we could be looking at possibly up to 8-9 players being sold off this summer? Is that the sort of scale of exodus that we can expect?
The thing is, he's tried to get rid of players for the past two seasons since he's been there, and has actually struggled to get some of the kind of, what I suppose the uncharitable description would be dead wood. Now, some of that dead wood has actually come back and actually changed his mind. Ashley Young being a prime example. When Mourinho first came into the job, he wasn't being used at all. Yeah, has kind of proved himself. But in any case, Mourinho has been trying to sell players. United have actually struggled with that. And even the most high-profile case you mentioned there, Pogba, we all know there's an issue there. I mean, despite some of the protestations, you can see it again on Sunday. But I think there's two things that would keep Pogba at the club. Ultimately, while the club fully back Mourinho from whatever, and he's completely convinced Ed Woodward, of the issues in the squad he needs to improve to succeed, and they would ultimately back Mourinho on any decision to sell. I think the club would still be reluctant to get rid of such an asset. And secondly, there are no takers for Pogba at the moment at the kind of price that United would want. And it's interesting maybe in that regard that his status has maybe been affected in his 2 years at the club so far. But yeah, I think Mourinho will try and get rid of 3 or 4. He wants another overhaul. But I suppose there's a bigger issue here that, there's been all this debate going on about whether or who had the best squad between Mourinho or Guardiola since they took over the job. But here we are 2 years into the United gig, and we still don't really know what Mourinho's team is compared to Guardiola, who seemed to, every signing they made, even those who didn't work out like Nolito, they kind of fitted into kind of a general idea. Whereas with United, it's very strange. One of the things through Mourinho's career is, all right, the third season's always been a bit of difficulty, but we're now getting to that point, and there's just kind of this muddle at United.
Interesting reading about Mourinho's mood swings as well. It does make me wonder if we were to sit here in a week's time and we're having this similar conversation, does that list of 8 players change if they go and beat Tottenham? Is he that fickle at the moment that one performance changes his attitude towards players' futures at the club?
I'd say big performance almost. Apparently this has been a trend through his 2 years at the club already, that kind of transfer targets have changed. Who he thought he wanted in November changed by the time it got to January because of performances. I think you're right. This is the thing with United at the moment, and it's been the case actually throughout this season if you kind of see the wild swings. The victory over Liverpool was immediately followed by the win over Sevilla, the defeat to Sevilla, then came the result against Chelsea or against City to deny them the title, which I think a lot of people fairly thought that could have been a turning point for Mourinho at United, only to then for that to be immediately followed by last week. See, I think a lot maybe for the summer will go into how they finish that season, with that very dependent on the FA Cup, obviously.
Miguel, I just wanted to add something about the fickle nature then perhaps of Mourinho that Nathan's touched on there. Phil Jones, Chris Smalling a couple of years ago, when he first went in last year, he had a big issue with those two. It looked like they had no future. You mentioned Ashley Young there as well in relation to him. Now all of a sudden he's flavour of the month. Juan Mata, you're only going back to the Chelsea days when he wasn't wanted at all, and clearly didn't want him. Now all of a sudden he's back in favour. Surely this process or this sort of mindset of Mourinho seems to change constantly. Surely the board have got to have some sort of issues with this.
Yeah. If you look back to what I would consider his best team into 2009-10, he went into that summer knowing exactly what he wanted. It was very forensic almost, the players he picked and the squad places he picked. And right from the start of that season, everything just clicked. Whereas that hasn't really been the case at United. And it hasn't really been the case even at Chelsea, I suppose, since maybe that summer of 2014. But it is kind of out of kilter with his career. I don't know whether it speaks to this wider debate, whether he's not as sharp as he used to be or isn't kind of the force he used to be.
How much of what's happening at United then is down to the dynamic involving Ed Woodward, who seems to have staked a huge amount on Mourinho and seems rather insistent that no matter what happens on the pitch, he's going to give his backing to Mourinho. Does he almost feel he's in last chance saloon as well with the Glazers, that one more bad decision from him and he's out of a job and he really feels he needs to give that backing for Mourinho, that his success is tied in with Mourinho's success?
I actually wouldn't say so, because if you look at United, are one of the most financially healthy clubs in the world, and Woodward has been actually very influential in that. There does feel almost there's a danger of them getting into an Arsenal situation that they get content, which isn't to say Mourinho will drop to what's happening at Arsenal now, but there's almost this kind of contentedness. If the money keeps coming in, things are fine. I do think maybe, given what happened with Moyes, given what happened with Van Gaal, from Woodward's own perspective, he doesn't want to change. But I was thinking about this today, actually, having written the piece and kind of when you're on to me, that it does feel a little bit out of step with the modern game to so entrust everything to one manager now. It does feel, because even at City, say, Guardiola was kind of the final piece of the jigsaw there, but they put in this huge kind of football structure around them. And like they've got a lot of football expertise at that club in a way that United don't seem at the moment. I mean, it's basically just Mourinho and Woodward making those key decisions, and you wonder whether they could do a director of football, say, someone with that football know-how to kind of maybe watch these things.
Yeah, I think with Guardiola's instance, Miguel, it's more he's actually happier being on the training ground, isn't he? He's quite happy just to actually shy away from doing press interviews, from doing any sort of that sort of side of the game. It is more he'd prefer to be on the training ground, working with the players, working with the 11, working with the whatever it would be, the 16, 18 players. Whereas opposed to Mourinho has almost thrived on this image of himself, his persona in many respects, hasn't he? And that's why we're all maybe questioning him a little bit over the last few years, because he's gone away from actually what got him into the position he's actually got himself into through his career. Yeah, and I mean, one thing you always notice with Mourinho now as well, anytime they have any sort of setback, his first defence is, look at my record. Yeah. Which is, and if you're already reaching for that, then it suggests that I don't know, maybe there's some insecurity about going forward for the future. But I don't know. It happened after Sevilla. It happened again after the West Brom game. And I have heard, actually, in the last 3 days, apparently, he's been like thunder around the United training ground. Like he's been in very bad form, I suppose, as you might expect after that setback. And that's kind of the great frustration with United right now, that they never seem to kick on. Like, they had what happened against City, and then to immediately go back to kind of go from that, like what was an exhilarating second half performance, to how flat it was on Sunday.
Reading your article today and some of the names then that United might go after this summer, you mentioned Jorginho, who's also been linked with Liverpool, the Napoli midfielder, the likes of Fred, Carlos Soler. They're not Gareth Bale, they're not Antoine Griezmann, the superstars. Are United in the market for that type of player? And if they are, is that linked in with whether Paul Pogba stays or goes?
I think maybe Sanchez probably covered that for this year, I'd say. Especially because they didn't expect to do that sort of business in January. He's kind of their marquee player. Like, one of Woodward's policies has been to try to do one a year. I'd imagine they'd more go for kind of team places that they need right now. I mean, what I keep hearing is basically, even though his plans have changed, like 2 months ago he didn't want a centre half, now he wants a centre half again. In January he didn't want a striker, now he wants a striker again. But one thing that hasn't changed at all is, and particularly with maybe Fellaini going, is he wants two central midfielders, and they especially want a central midfielder who's a passer, someone, I suppose, to move the ball more quickly between Carrick and Pogba.
Miguel, do you get the sense? I mean, I was at Old Trafford at the weekend. I was actually at Anfield on Saturday, and something we spoke about on the show this week about the atmospheres around both Anfield and Old Trafford, both pre and post match. Do you get the sense that the board? Well, I wouldn't want to say make a change, but certainly get the sense that the board aren't happy with the atmosphere at Old Trafford throughout this season. Nathan and I have both been enough this season, and it is quite dour. It's quite eerie, actually, when you watch them, particularly on Saturday. On Sunday was the same. Do you get the board or get the impression that the board have been maybe questioning Mourinho on this, and they're not quite happy with the way it's gone from that sort of side?
At the moment, no. I think, again, there are kind of figures at Old Trafford that would be watching this and be concerned, but Woodward has no concerns about that. But I think that speaks to something wider with the fans. I was talking to someone yesterday. Like, there's been this debate as well about whether Liverpool are a better side than United, or like who's actually performed better this season. But even beyond that, say, like, if you're a Liverpool fan right now, if you're going to a game or about to watch a game, you're expecting a show. It's exciting. There's a vibrancy about the club. But United, you don't really know what you're going to get. And if it's not a big game, it feels like it's going to be kind of another one of these kind of trying afternoons. Even when they're playing even those games they win, like say Swansea 2 weeks ago, it's a bit like it's all a bit turgid. They get one goal, and it's not really flowing. And there does feel a contrast now. I mean, and you would think, actually, given how the Premier League sold now, that entertainment will become more and more important, a factor in how clubs sell themselves. And I would expect it to be an issue over the next year, 2 years. But at the moment, for the key decision makers at Old Trafford, apparently it's not yet a problem. But you'd wonder how it will develop, especially if they don't challenge for the title next season. Because, I mean, I suppose that's the whole point of United. You'll accept any sort of football if you're winning.
Yeah, more to come from Miguel in a moment. We spoke to him a little bit earlier on because he is at the Vitality Stadium for Bournemouth against Manchester United. United leading by 2-0. 4 minutes left. Chris Smalling in the first half. Romelu Lukaku off the bench in the second. You've been watching it. United just cruising.
Comfortable enough night really for them. Yeah, I said before, Bournemouth perhaps could have had one penalty. I feel as though they should have done. But other than that, really, it's been end of season game. Very little excitement in the match. Really, United have done a job. They've been professional, I suppose you would say, and 3 points is what they've warranted tonight. Yeah.
Paul Pogba set up Romelu Lukaku's goal, the second. He's since been taken off.
Yeah.
Is that a hint?
We've
been talking about this all day because we were debating whether or not we talk about Manchester United, and you were saying no matter what happens tonight, none of it matters. It's all decided for the weekend. Are you looking at Pogba's performance this evening and thinking maybe he's just done enough?
I wouldn't think he's not been great tonight by any stretch of the imagination. He's been okay, he's done all right, but he's not been, he's not exactly, pulled up trees tonight. He's done okay. Yeah, he's done all right. I don't know.
Big statement not to start either of Sanchez or Pogba.
I think Sanchez starts. Sanchez on the bench tonight. I think he starts. I think that's a definite. I think the one dilemma he would have had was up front. What was he going to do? Was he going to play Rashford? Was he going to play Martial with Lukaku and Sanchez? I think that right-sided berth is still up for grabs. Whether or not he goes with Mata, I personally don't think Mata's good enough to get in that side. I think he's way off it compared to Martial and Rashford, but Jose Mourinho thinks differently.
Yeah, he is meant to be one of those players on the list of 7 or 8 who Jose Mourinho does still trust. Pogba then not starting that game against Spurs, is that also because it's Tottenham and Spurs are so strong in midfield with Dyer and Dembele, and also have Eriksen who will just drop into that hole where Paul Pogba probably should be tracking back. In fact, they probably have Eriksen, Ali, Son who could all drop in behind where Paul Pogba should be tracking back and just won't.
That suggested he'll play Fellaini and Herrera in there. I can't see him going that. If he goes with that 3 midfield, I think if he went with that type of midfield and lost the game, then there is serious pressure on him, massive pressure on him. I think that's a difficult one to come back from that if you've actually done that in the cup semi-final. If he wins it and he's done that, he's a master, isn't he? Personally, I don't think he can go with that sort of midfield. No, I wouldn't have thought that.
All right, let's get back to Miguel because we also spoke about how big a summer this was, that it's now 5 years since Manchester United last won the title, and they really need to start getting their big money summer signings right before we start heading towards a decade of United without a Premier League title.
But that's exactly it, yeah. And I mean, if you look at what has he made, about 8 signings, Mourinho, and there's not too many outstanding successes. 2 have already gone. There's kind of the debate about others, like even with Lindelof, we don't know the score. So yeah, they have to get those signings right. And as you mentioned about the timing, I mean, it's 5 years now since they won a title. As it stands, I can't see them. I can only see City retaining it next year. I suppose we've said that about a few champions for the last few years, bar Leicester. But then suddenly, if it goes to 6 years, you get to 7. It's suddenly a decade. Then you're going to have a bit of a the situation Liverpool had been in a few years ago, before kind of Klopp, I suppose, restored this Champions League status, or that United were in pre-Fergie. Even if the game has changed.
Has there been any signs or suggestion from within the United camp then that Mourinho is taking the criticism about the style of play on board, that everybody looked at the second half against Manchester City and said that should be the template for United, the energy, the way they attacked Manchester City, the creativity, Pogba and Sanchez influential, and then as you mentioned, it's just completely flat again, and a sense that everything about Mourinho shows he's not going to change. But has there been any suggestion that maybe he does look at that template from the 45 minutes against Manchester City and realise that is the future, that's the way it has to be?
Well, as I wrote in that piece, I think what maybe sums this up, someone who's worked with Mourinho and at United was telling me basically that an issue is, like, throughout Mourinho's career, he's preferred kind of these strong central midfielders who are primarily there to kind of win the ball back and give the team physicality and strength. And like I was put to me basically, if he could play 3 Nemanja Matic in midfield, he would. But apparently there was a bit of a recognition with Mourinho around the summer of 2016 when he realised he should have more pass, or he should have more creativity in the middle. And apparently Pogba was a move towards that. But even as you see with Pogba and what he demands of Pogba, it's if he can't stop himself reverting to type. And that feels like the case again from Saturday. Despite how good the second half was, he can't stop himself going back to what he knows. And I suppose maybe this is probably an issue in all industries, bar kind of someone like Ferguson who always adapted no matter what. And that was his great skill. Ultimately, people kind of settle into what made them successful, and it's very difficult to get away from that.
Yeah, and just before we let you go then, and I know you've studied this before, as to maybe tactically he's being left behind, because who's he bouncing ideas off now? So Guardiola, Klopp, Pochettino are playing at times this brilliant attacking brand of football, and they seem to have people around them who feed into that, who they can question and who question them. Whereas with Mourinho, he is his way. It's that way are tough. There's nobody at the club.
I just want to add to that as well, though, Nathan, as well. Mourinho, I feel, is not a coach of an individual player. All those other coaches you've mentioned there seem to get the best out of the individuals. You know, one-on-one situations. You've seen what Pep Guardiola was doing with Raheem Sterling. That's where I would feel he's falling behind on the individual side of it. Yes, we see the coaches that can coach a 1 to 11, get them set up structurally. It's how a coach is going to get the individuals now. That's what it seems to me how the modern coaches, or certainly the top echelon of coaches, are getting the best out of players.
Because he does receive criticism, I think somewhat unfairly, about De Bruyne and Salah and not making it Chelsea when they were at a very different stage of their career, and maybe they were never going to play 35 times a season. But again, you look at somebody like Rashford or Martial, and especially Martial, if he was to leave this summer, you wouldn't be at all surprised in 3 years' time if he's back playing at one of the top clubs in the world and just being exceptional.
No, exactly. And even given how this was a team in the last 2 weeks, it is, almost frustrating to wonder what Pogba would be like if Guardiola had him. But on that point, in terms of the staff, like, this has been brought up before, but Mourinho's basically had the same staff for all of his career, pretty much. Whereas Ferguson regularly changed his assistant because he wanted different voices. But that'll change in summer, because Carrick will go into the coaching staff. And apparently he's really highly regarded at United. He was always a coach, I think they say anyway. But now the fact he's going into the role has brought out more of that. And in that regard, Pogba's comments after the City game were interesting, because he made such a point of mentioning how Carrick had done with him exactly what Kevin was saying, basically, that he talked him, he had this individual effect on him. And that maybe alternative voice could help going forward. But or it could cause tension. But
so Rui Farri will remain as the guard dog, but maybe Michael Carrick's the guy who comes in and puts the arm around the shoulder, and that changes everything. Miguel, great stuff as always.
Cheers. Thanks, lads.
Yeah, Miguel Delaney joined us a little bit earlier today. Manchester United on the verge of a 2-0 win over Bournemouth would move them 4 points clear of Liverpool in second place in the Premier League table. That's interesting, I think, what he says about Alexis Sanchez maybe being this year's superstar signing. I sort of expected that United, having fallen so far behind Manchester City, with some of the names that might be possibly available this summer, Gareth Bale, potentially on his way out of Real Madrid, particularly if Neymar was to end up going there, that the opportunity to sign a player like that who would actually move to England doesn't come along too often. Yeah. Maybe that does change everything if he does become available. But I don't feel that Manchester United fans will be satisfied starting next season with Alexis Sanchez still being held up as their big signing for this year.
Yeah.
And also, they've already seen he's not going to suddenly turn them into title contenders.
Well, the way that he's been asked to play, the way that the team have been playing as well, he's not fitted into the style of play that they've got. He was perfect for the way that Arsenal went about things. I always felt watching him at Arsenal that his work rate was always excellent, and his work rate has been good playing for United.
Does that make you doubt everything? So Gareth Bale, the last time he was in Premier League football, was probably at a level that Luis Suarez was at, in terms of he was able to lift his club to probably 3-4 places higher at the table than they should be, just by his own individual brilliance. But having watched the way Sanchez has struggled at United, Pogba struggled at United, would you actually look at Gareth Bale and the dents his confidence has taken? Well, he's not the player he was in terms of confidence, because he's had so many knocks and injuries at Real Madrid that actually Mourinho isn't the guy to get him back to that level.
Well, that's the thing that he'd need to ask, but it's a fair point. It is a fair point. Is he going to be allowed to go and play with the expression and with the freedom that he's had when he first went into Real Madrid, when he had the relatively injury-free first season? You mentioned the time at Tottenham. He was a free role. He was playing as a number 10 for Villas-Boas. Villas-Boas built a team around him. It was him. You have got a license to go and play where you want. So you'd probably say no. He won't have that luxury. He will not have that freedom of a football pitch. So it's a good point. It's something that he'll have to weigh up himself.
All right, full-time whistle has gone at Old Trafford. Manchester United 2-0 winners over Bournemouth. Sorry, not at Old Trafford, at the Vitality Stadium, away from home. Chris Smalling and Romelu Lukaku with the goals. Going to take a quick break, and then we're talking about matters at the other end of the table, the fight for survival.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the Boyle Sports app. Cash out and in-play betting available in the App Store and Google Play Store.
Moncrief.
James Sexton is a lawyer in New York who has dealt with over 1,000 divorces. One of our listeners, James, he says, this guy sounds like money. I will never divorce simply because I can't afford how rich this guy sounds.
There's a saying in the United States that love is grand, but divorce is 100 grand. Yeah. So, It is not a low-paying profession, and I'm thankful for that.
Moncrief.
With Gas Networks Ireland.
Weekdays from 2 p.m. on News Talk.
Calling all future leaders from across the globe with the ambition to discover more. Maynooth University is offering postgraduate courses with worldwide expertise, world-changing outlooks and worldwide opportunities. For a future that knows no bounds, visit maynoothuniversity.ie and realise your ambition by discovering the postgraduate course that's right for you. What's more, if you're interested in a postgraduate scholarship, apply before the 1st of May. Maynooth University. No bounds.
Have you ever dreamt of playing with your friends on a Premier League pitch? Well, now you can. Carling, the official beer of the Premier League, is giving you and 4 friends the chance to follow in the footsteps of the world's best players and play on a Premier League pitch. To enter the draw for this incredible prize, check out Carling Ireland on Facebook. Carling, bringing fans closer to the Premier League. Terms and conditions apply. Entrants must be 18 years of age or over to enter. For further information, visit drinkaware.ie.
Calling all retailers, don't miss Ireland's biggest and best retail show, the Retail Excellence Retail Retreat and Expo. 2,000 delegates, 150 cutting-edge expo partners, 70 world-class and inspirational speakers, including CEOs and business leaders past and present. Victoria's Secret, Applegreen, Leon Restaurants, John Lewis, Dreams, Woody's, Harvey Norman, The Retail Doctor, with Paul O'Connell, Brian Cody, David McWilliams and many more. All happening at City West Convention Centre May 15th and 16th. Visit retailexcellence.ie now to find out how you can exhibit or attend.
Switch on to Virgin Media, where awesome entertainment comes together. Binge on must-see box sets like Good Behaviour and Broadchurch, and catch the very latest Virgin movies like Thor Ragnarok. All while you enjoy Ireland's fastest in-home Wi-Fi. Switch for just €59 a month for 12 months. See virginmedia.ie.
T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie. €89 a month thereafter. Ireland's fastest in-home Wi-Fi as awarded by Ookla. Virgin Movies pay by title. Offer ends 30th of May 2018.
Right, Winter. That's enough of you and your beast from the east for 1 year. We want our gardens back. And we want the great deals at AppliancesDelivered.ie. Yeah, we know they have the lowest prices on home appliances in Ireland. But Appliances Delivered also have new garden and DIY ranges. Like lawnmowers, hedge trimmers, power washers. And why not treat yourself to a new barbecue from just $99.95. Plus all the barbecue accessories. Hello, summer. AppliancesDelivered.ie. Why pay more?
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back to Wednesday's football show. Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 2, the full-time score. The vitality goals in the first half from Chris Smalling and the second from Romelu Lukaku, edging United ever closer to securing second spot in the Premier League. But right now we're going to switch our attention to events at the bottom and just who is going to survive in the Premier League. It was so tight for so long, where we had half the table involved in a relegation battle. It started to spread out in recent weeks. As it stands, West Brom on 24 points are 9 points from safety. They are doomed despite their win over Manchester United. So really we're looking at either Southampton or Stoke to make a move, because they're both on 28 points, 5 points from safety. Leon Blanche of Boyle Sports joins us on the line as well. Evening, Leon.
Good evening, Nathan. How are you, pal?
Not too bad. So, Kev, let's rule West Brom out of it, despite the win. Even if they win their last 4 games, they're probably still going to be relegated. Stoke and Southampton, nobody really expected them to be in this position. They've both been top half of the table for the last 3-4 seasons. Southampton even pushing on to another level of challenging for the top 6. What's gone wrong? What are the characteristics that you look about, say, in the Southampton dressing room, that they can go from a top 7 team to in a dire fight for relegation? What are they missing? Is it that all the sales of the last 5 years have finally caught up with them? Is it just a bad managerial appointment?
Potentially that one. The first one that you've talked about there, that I would have always felt that the amount of players that are outgoing, you're going to have to do something very, very special to continue that cycle of bringing players in and producing the same sort of results again, which is, it's been amazing. Whoever it's been, whether it's been Pochettino, whether it's been Koeman, whoever it's been, they've done incredible things. The managerial appointment with Pellegrino going in, it didn't strike you as someone, even listening to him. And again, it's something you hear, you get whispers when you go into games that Training is slow, it's methodical, it's very, very different from how Koeman worked, very different from how Pochettino worked, where everything was high-tempoed football. Southampton played with a tempo that was very, very much on the attacking front foot, whereas seeing them this season, you can see them. They're a well-organised side, moving the ball very slowly. Everyone in positions. No one's really willing to vacate that position and go beyond players. As opposed to, I mean, you get the picture in your head where if you're looking at Liverpool, you're looking at Man City, you're looking at players continuously running forward. And I understand sometimes that's the way some managers work.
So that's the dynamic of getting the right fit for the right club, because he's the disciple of Rafa Benitez, who has done an unbelievable job at Newcastle in giving them a defensive structure, probably very similar training. So why does it work at Newcastle but not work at Southampton?
Well, it's a balance, though. It's a balance of what you do. He's very much, if you're looking at Rafa Benitez, yes, he's constantly an organised manager. Don't necessarily play open and expansive football, but they always have one or two players in the side that can do something. I think the signing of Kennedy going in there to Newcastle, I think he lifted them at a time when they needed to be lifted, and the form since the turn of the year has been excellent.
Leon, Southampton are 5 points from safety, 5 games remaining. They have attacking power, but attacking power that don't seem to score any goals. What odds on them staying up?
Yeah, look, I think that's the point. I think their top scorer is Charlie Austin with 7 goals. And I think probably going back to your initial point with Kev, I think the start of the demise was when they wanted Claude Puel out. I mean, they didn't really realise how lucky they were to have him. Look at the job he's doing with Leicester. But they've got 5 games to play. You and I both watched them suffer a 3-2 defeat at the hands of Chelsea, and I think that was pivotal. You could see the players coming off the pitch. They just looked crestfallen. They were 2-0 up. They gave away 3 easy goals, and they lost that game. They're 4-9 to be relegated. And I think they've got 1 game in hand on Stoke, but Stoke is not their problem. They're looking at Swansea, who are 5 points ahead of them. And I think if you look at Swansea, even though they've scored less goals than Southampton, they just seem to be able to pick up points here and there. They don't get beaten that often. In their last 4 games, the only side to beat them was Manchester United. So I think Swansea, the way they play and the way they set up, and they can nick a goal with Ayew, him back from suspension, could be pivotal for them. And I just think Southampton, I'm looking at their games, Nathan, they're away to Leicester. And Leicester have kind of taken the foot off the pedal. They're safe. They're middle of the table. They don't have a lot to play for. And this is the type of game, if Southampton are to have any chance of staying in the Premier League, they've got to beat Leicester. And maybe getting away from their home pitch and going on the road, it might just relieve a little bit of pressure. They'll be going in as underdogs. And if they can start the way they started against Chelsea, they might just give themselves a chance. But if you look at the sides above them, as I said, Swansea with 33, they're 4-1 to get relegated. And then you look at Huddersfield, and what a massive goal that is by Tom Ince in injury time. It was their only shot on target in the whole game, and they got the winner in injury time. Because if you look at some of the games they have left, away to City, away to Chelsea, at home to Arsenal, they are so lucky they got 3 points at the weekend, and that's pushed them right out to 9-2 to get relegated.
Do you know what I was just going to say there? I was going to jump in. You may be talking about Southampton there, Leon, as well, and that 3-2 defeat at the weekend as well. Just listening to Mark Hughes today. Mark Hughes was speaking at his press conference today in relation to that 3-2 defeat and maybe the negativity that's in the dressing room, and perhaps that might have set in even more so from that game. Mark, he said the message is to enjoy the challenge. It's not an easy situation, but we can't be cowed by it. It's just get out there and show people what you're all about. I've been in a relegation battle, and I'm telling you something now, you do not enjoy the challenge. You get a beat like that at the weekend, and I spoke to you and Leon at the weekend about it as well. You play well in games against the big sides because you get a bit more freedom. So you have to win or draw those big games. And when you concede 3 goals in the manner in which they conceded, it takes 2 or 3 days to get out your system. And then all of a sudden, then you're looking forward to the next game. So all of a sudden now, they're into this game against Leicester. They'll be full of confidence. The message will be clear. Enjoy it, but you don't enjoy it because it drags you down. It interferes with your home life. You can't get away from it. And I tell you something now, you end up not sleeping. Those lads at Southampton will be fearful going into that Leicester game away.
And that sort of feeds in when you look at, say, a team like Burnley, who are probably in Southampton's position now, and they're playing with a certain freedom because actually they have nothing to lose. Yeah. What's the worst case scenario? They miss out on the Europa League. Whereas Southampton, it's such a different mentality.
Yeah.
that they're in and they're not used to. And that fact that maybe they're not sleeping, is that a good thing? Or is there a possibility with maybe West Brom players that they've been sleeping a little bit too easily, that there's a problem with the mentality?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think they'd have been feeling it as well. But I tell you what, yes, the manager has a part to play. I think his staff has a part to play. But the only people that can get you out of it in that position, it's your teammates. You're looking for that lift from your teammate. You might have a few characters in the dressing room, and you're coming in and you want to go in with a smile on your face, and you're getting out the car and you have that little bit of a fear, or not fear, it's just that little bit of a sinking feeling when you're getting out your car going into training, and you want something to give you a lift. And that's maybe what you're looking within squads. Where are the real characters and the strength within those squads now at the bottom?
I do wonder if we look back at Guido Carrillo's signing from Monaco as one of the prime examples of the Premier League losing the run of himself. 20 million quid for a player in the January transfer window who'd made little or no impression in a strong Monaco side, desperately looking for something, and I don't think he's scored a goal so far. Compare that to Swansea, who brought in Andre Ayew for 80 million quid. He's made an impact, and he's also got the best out of his brother. And Leon, looking at Swansea, 5 points clear of relegation, again, they're looking at that and 5 games left. Carlos Carvajal can sort of think, well, 4 points would probably be enough. So again, maybe they're sleeping a little bit easier.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt. I mean, I think he's done a remarkable job since he's come into that club. Look, they do have a couple of tricky games, obviously away against City when there's going to be a big party at the Etihad. You wouldn't expect them to get anything out of that. Then they're at home to Chelsea. They've got the likes of Bournemouth and Southampton still to play. Out of the sides, I think Swansea, for me, even though they're 2 points behind Huddersfield, who are on 35, I can see Swansea finishing ahead of Huddersfield. I think come the end of the Premier League season, they've got one extra game to play. They're 2 points behind Huddersfield. I can see Swansea getting more points from their remaining games than I can Huddersfield. And that's why I go back to that crucial goal by Tom Ince. I mean, one shot on target and you score, I think it was in the 91st or the 92nd minute. To get 3 points, you could see the relief of his teammates. You could see the relief of his manager. You could see the relief around the whole stadium. They realised how big a win that was, because looking at Southampton, even if they'd have lost against Chelsea, which they did, if Huddersfield had only even got a draw, it would have kept them on
we seem to have
to target.
But
unfortunately, Huddersfield scored in injury time and Southampton gave up a 2-0 victory. I'm looking at it now and I find it very difficult to see anything other than a Stoke and Southampton joining West Brom in the Championship next year.
Stoke's remaining 4 games, Burnley at home, Liverpool away, Palace at home and Swansea away. And much like that goal for Tom Ince being important, the equaliser from Andy Carroll for West Ham feels as though it may be the defining moment in Stoke's season. Peter Crouch had gone and put them in front at the Olympic Stadium. Suddenly they're within sight of Swansea, and I guess that, Leon, is what they're looking at, being 5 points behind, putting themselves in a position where on the final day of the season, remember, Stoke go to Swansea. Stoke's hope, at whatever odds they're at, is that they have some hope that if they win at the Liberty Stadium, that'll be enough to put themselves in that sort of position.
They'll be hoping, but I think you've hit the nail on the head. That draw against West Ham must feel like a defeat in the Stoke dressing room. They've done everything right. Crouchy put them ahead, and then in, I think, the 90th minute, Andy Carroll. So they're looking at it, they should be on 30 points. And then they're right in distance. And it's at the business end of the season, these little breaks will obviously go against you when you really need a win, whereas Huddersfield had a bit of breathing space and the look of the ball just seemed to go with them. Stoke and Paul Lambert, they just haven't been able to get enough points on the board since he's gone there. He probably was dealt a very difficult hand, in all honesty. I don't think many people expected Stoke to get out of the predicament that they found themselves in before Lambert came in. They're the shortest price, Nathan, and it's no surprise of all the teams we're talking about to get relegated. They're 1 to 10. So we fully expect Stoke to go down. We're giving Southampton a little bit of life at 4 to 9, and we're probably looking at this Leicester game. I've heard what Kev said. I think the Southampton players will be probably just glad to get back out on a football pitch and stop their minds thinking about that 3-2 defeat against Chelsea, because the worst thing you probably have as a footballer is the wait for the next game. At least with Southampton, they're back soon enough away to Leicester, and it might just be the tonic that they require.
All right, good stuff, Leon. Thanks a lot for taking the call. We'll talk to you next week. We'll be previewing the Champions League semi-finals. Leon Blanche there from Boyle Sports. Quick break.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Here at Charles Tyrwhitt, we use the finest materials and superb craftsmanship to give you the perfect shirt. Smart or casual, we believe you won't find a better fit anywhere else. Choose the fabric, cuffs and collar you want, and with our special News Talk offer of $29.90, you can order online with free delivery. Join our 7,000 Irish customers and order now at ctshirt.com/newstalk to get your shirt for $29.90. Charles Tyrwhitt, the home of proper shirts.
Tower Records presents Your Music, Your Life, the ultimate vinyl sale for 10 days only. Get huge discounts on vinyl albums by Kendrick Lamar, Gorillaz, Pink Floyd, The Killers, Blondie, Air, plus loads more. And don't forget Record Store Day on April 21st. We'll be celebrating from 8 a.m. in Tower Records, Dawson Street and O'Connell Street. Your Music, Your Life, the ultimate vinyl sale now on at Tower Records.
Many of life's great pleasures are best enjoyed when shared. And at Beau Concept, it's time to share our new collections of cool contemporary Danish home furnishings with you. Join us for our design days from the 12th to the 22nd of April at Beau Concept Beacon South Quarter, or visit beauconcept.ie today.
Run for a laugh with your work colleagues in the Phoenix Park Thursday, May 24th at the Staff Relay Series with PwC. The Staff Relay Series with PwC is Ireland's biggest relay event and staff night out. 5 people per team, 5 kilometres per relay leg, 5-star entertainment. Register your team today at staffrelayseries.com. Proudly supported by News Talk.
What about a new iPhone? How about a free iPhone? At Carphone Warehouse, the iPhone 6S is free. Free with all-you-can-eat data. That's a super-powered 32-gig large-screen iPhone 6S free, saving you over €99. All you have to do is switch to the classic Flex Max plan from 3 at Carphone Warehouse. Hurry! Offer only available while stocks last. Any network, any phone, any plan. Only Carphone Warehouse. T's and C's apply. Offer subject to a 24-month contract.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You're welcome back to the football show. It's Nathan and Kev. If you ever wanted the chance to live out your Kevin Kilbane fantasies,
that doesn't sound good at all.
Doesn't sound good at all.
That doesn't sound good at all. No.
If what is playing on a Premier League pitch, that's fine. I wasn't sure where JP was going with that. At least one you can tell your family about is JP. But well, now's your chance. Off the Ball is teaming up with Carling Ireland to offer one lucky winner and 4 mates an all expenses paid trip to a Premier League club for a once in a lifetime opportunity to play in a Premier League pitch on Thursday, May 10th. For your chance to win, visit offtheball.com/Carling. All the details are there. That's offtheball.com/Carling. Terms and conditions apply. You have to be over 18 to enter. It's all with thanks to Carling, official beer of the Premier League, bringing fans closer to the Premier League action. Always remember to drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.ie for more information. Tomorrow morning on OTBAM, they're live from 7:45. Jer's going to be joined by Alan Quinlan and Michael Quinlivan. It's a bit of a Tipperary love-in. You'll get it on facebook.com/offtheball, Twitter and YouTube. Tomorrow night, Richie's going to be here with John Giles, Paulie Malignaggi, Graham Hunter and much more. That's almost done. Where are you at the weekend, Kev?
I am actually at Southampton, Leicester Southampton tomorrow night.
Oof.
So
tomorrow night?
Yeah, tomorrow night. This weekend, match today actually. Match today. Yeah.
The main match of the day?
Yeah.
I always get excited.
Yeah.
Is this your first time since Stephen's Day episode?
Yeah, it is actually.
What are you going to do this time? Oh, if we'd known this earlier, we could have set you right up. I was worried that time you might have got fired or something about it. You might mention Big Tom's passing.
Big Tom. Oh.
Give a mention to Big Tom on Match of the Day on Saturday night.
Right.
Go on, Kev.
Right.
Go on, Kev. All right, that's us done. The real Big Tom. Tom Dunn is up next. Good luck.